Hi friends, welcome back to SPK English Academy. In today's class, we will discuss the great English novel and novelist John Maxwell Coetzee's Disgrace. This is the greatest African novel. So, now how to look at John Maxwell Coetzee's life. John Maxwell Coetzee is a South African born novelist, essayist, linguist, translator, recipient of the 2003 Nobel Prize in Literature. Coetzee was the first writer to be awarded the Booker Prize for two times. First time for Life and Times of Michael K in 1983, and for second time Disgrace in 1999. Coetzee moved to Australia in 2002 and became an Australian citizen in 2006. He lives in Adelaide. Coetzee was born in Cape Town Province, Union of South Africa. He was born on February 9, 1940 to Afrikaner parents. He attended school St. Joseph's College, a Catholic school in the Cape Town suburb Randebost, later studying mathematics and English at the University of Cape Town and receiving his Bachelor's of Arts with Honours English in 1960 and his Bachelor of Arts with Honours in Mathematics in 1961. Now to look at his works. First we'll look at novels. Glance in the Heart of the Country, Waiting for the Barbarians, Life and Times of Michael K. 4. Age of Iran, The Master of Petersburg, Disgrace, very important work of Elizabethan Costello, Slow Man, Diary of a Bad Year, The Child of Justice, The School Days of Justice, The Death of Justice, and some of autobiographical novel of Coetzee, Boyhood Scenes from Provincial Life, Youth Scenes from Provincial Life 2, Summertime. Now to look at Disgrace, very important novel. It was awarded the Booker Prize in 1999. Disgrace is a novel by J M Coetzee published in 1909. It won the Booker Prize. The writer was also awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature 4 years after its publication. The setting of the novel is in Cape Town and Salem, South Africa. Now I have to look at the important characters in the novel. David Lurie, a 50-year-old professor in Cape Town, the protagonist of the novel, South Africa, and he was the important character of the novel. Lucy, a young woman in her 20s, daughter of David. Melanie Isaacs, a 20-year-old college student in David's class on the romantic poetry. Petrus, a man who shares Lucy's land, works in her garden and helps with her kennel business by taking care of dogs. Busha, a Middle East woman living in Eastern Cape, South Africa with her husband Bill Shaw. Bill Shaw, Busha's husband. Mrs. Isaacs, Melanie's father. Soraya, a prostitute David visits in the beginning of Disgrace. Rosalind, David's second wife, to whom he is no longer married. Now to look at the summary of the novel. David Lurie is a South African professor of English who loses everything: his reputation, his job, his peace of mind, his dreams of artistic success, and finally, even his ability to protect his own daughter. He is twice divorced and dissatisfied with his job as a communications lecturer teaching a class in romantic literature at a technical university in Cape Town in post-apartheid Africa. Louis' sexual activities are all inherently risky. Before the sexual affairs that will ruin him, he becomes attached to a sex worker and attempts to have a romantic relationship with her, despite having a family with C. with C. rebuffs. Then he seduces a secretary at his university, only to completely ignore her afterwards. His disgrace comes when he seduces one of his more vulnerable students, a girl named Melanie Isaacs, plying her with alcohol and other accents that arguably amount to rape. Later, when she stops attending his class, as a result, he falsifies her grade. Lurie refuses to stop the affairs, even after being threatened by Melanie's erstwhile boyfriend, who knocks the papers, Lurie's desk, and her father, who confronts him but whom David runs from. This affair is thereafter revealed to the school amidst a climate of the condemnation for his allegedly predatory acts, and a committee is convened to pass the judgment on his actions. David refuses to read Melanie's statement, defend himself, or apologize in any sincere form, and so he is forced to resign from his post. Lurie is working on an opera concerning Lord Byron's final phase of life in Italy, which mirrors his own life in Byron, is living a life of hedonism and excess, and is having an affair with a married woman. Dismissed from his teaching position, he takes refuge on his lesbian daughter Lucy's farm in the Eastern Cape. For a time, his daughter's influence and natural rhythms of the farm promise to harmonize his discordant life, for example, in attending farmers' markets where Lucy sells her wares, and in working with Petrus, a polygamously married black African whose farm borders Lucy's, and who nominally works for Lucy as a dog man. Lucy boards many dogs. Balance of the power in the country is shifting. Shortly after becoming compatible with rural life, he is forced to come to terms with the aftermath of an attack on the farm. Three men who claims to need Lucy's phone to call for aid for a sick relative force their way into the farmhouse. The men rape Lucy and attempt to kill David by setting him on fire. In addition, they also shoot the caged dog which Lucy is boarding, an action which David later muses were done since black people in South Africa are taught to fear dogs as symbol of white power and oppression. The men drive off in David's car. It is never recovered. It is never returned. And they are not caught. Although police once contacted David to come pick up his car, which is in fact evidently not his car, a different color and different registration number, different sound system. To David's relief, newspapers spell Lurie's name inaccurately, Lowry, meaning nothing will tie his disgraced academic persona to the news story describing the attack on his daughter's farm. Lucy becomes apathetic and agoraphobic. After David presses her to report the full circumstances to the police, but she does not. Lucy does not want to do, and in fact, about not discuss the attack with David until much later. The relationship between Lucy and David begins to show strain as the two recover from the attack in different ways. Lurie begins work with Busha, a friend of Lucy's who keeps an animal shelter and frequently euthanizes animals, which David then disposes of. Shaw has an affair with Lucy, despite David finding her physically unattractive. Meanwhile, David suspects Petrus being complicit in the attack. This suspicion is strengthened when one of the attackers, a young man who named Pollux attends one of the Petrus's parties, is claimed that he was a kinsman or relative. Lucy refuses to make action against Pollux, and she and David simply leave the party. As the relationship between Lucy and David deteriorates, David decides to discontinue living with his daughter and return to Cape Town. Returning to his house in Cape Town, David finds that his house has been broken into during his long absence. He attempts to attend a theater performance starring Melanie, but is harassed into leaving by the same boyfriend who had earlier threatened him. He also attempts to apologize to Melanie's father, leading to an awkward meeting with Melanie's younger sister, which rekindles David's internal passion and lust. David finally meets with Melanie's father, who makes him stay for dinner. Melanie's father insists that his forgiveness is irrelevant. Lurie must follow his own path to redemption. At the novel's end, Lurie returns to Lucy's farm. Lucy has become pregnant by one of the rapists, but ignores advice to terminate the pregnancy. Pollux ultimately comes to live with Petrus and spies on Lucy's bathing. When David catches Pollux doing this, Lucy forces David to desist from any retribution. David surmises that ultimately Lucy will be forced into marrying Petrus and giving him her land, and it appears that Lucy is resigned to his contingency. Lurie returns to working with Shaw, where Lurie has been keeping a resilient stray from being euthanized. The novel concludes as Lurie gives him up to Busia's euthanasia. So this is the story of Disgrace, the great African novel written by John Maxwell Coetzee. You know John Maxwell Coetzee, Nobel laureate, and he was awarded the Booker Prize by twice, and also he was longlisted for Booker Prize for 4 times century. Read his novel, especially Disgrace, carefully, and also watch the video from beginning to end. And every year's question paper of KSET and ACT, there will be a question on Disgrace or on Coetzee's other works. And also, if you like this video, share and comment. And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching this video.